Good morning, everyone, and good evening. The contents of this group project is going to consist of the plague. So, the plague's original name, scientific name, is called Yersinia pestis. Yersinia coming from the name of the individual who discovered the plague, and pestis coming from pests. So, Yersinia pestis, also known as the plague, was thought to be a sort of spirit or toxin, toxic poisonous air, and that can also be known as the miasma theory, which is just what I explained. So, as a result of these toxic poisonous airs or spirits, what they did was wear a sort of like scary mask, and this mask was made in order to scare off the bad spirits. However, little did they know was that it was actually covering their face from contracting the actual disease. So, moving on to what causes the plague, these are typically small rodents such as mice and groundhogs. And the reason why they carry the plague and not die from it is because they have adapted to not get sick from it. However, these rodents are the primary host. The fleas that then get onto them are not immune to it. So what happens whenever they get onto the rodent is that the blood starts clogging up, and as a result they leave that host, and then it can then be transmitted over to a human. So the different types of once it's then transmitted to a human, it can then transmit that disease or bacteria. So different ways of contracting the plague is either bubonic, septicemic, or pneumonic. Bubonic, which is the most common, which is contracted through fleas and rodents to human transmission, causes different types of boils on the skin. And since the bubonic plague is a lymphatic infection, these lymph nodes then become inflamed and cause bubos, which is Latin for boils, hence the name bubonic plague. On the other hand, septicemic is a secondary to bubonic or enters through break in your skin. So this can be through blood to blood contact or bodily fluids. Moving on to pneumonic, which is the most deadly, this can be spread through different types or through aerosols, such as coughing or sneezing, which is then inhaled through the lungs, and that's where it infects you. So as a result of it infecting your lungs, it can then start to deteriorate your lung tissue and cells, and leading to you having to cough up a bunch of blood and then dying. So over here is a picture of bubos, or like the swollen lymph nodes. And the next page is a picture of pneumonic plague. So on the left hand side is a picture of a set of healthy lungs, and on the right side is a set of unhealthy lungs. Down here is gangrene, which is a side effect of the plague, and that is basically the deterioration of the tissues. Then down here is a picture of a patient with bubonic plague, and as you can see, it does not look very good at all. So on the top, we have a picture of the plague in a petri dish, and on the right hand side there is a electron microscopic picture of the plague. However, even though the plague was extremely dangerous, and which it still is today, we now have a vaccine for it. So because the plague is a bacterial infection, we treat it with antibiotics. And as you can see here in this picture, there are several patients there's one patient laying down on the bed due to the contraction of the plague. So even though this happens in our world still to this day, we have still managed to prevent the disease. So back then there was no cure to the disease, and today there is. However, we must take precaution in contracting the virus through wearing proper PPE. Over here, we can see that although there is a vaccine for the plague, we still misuse it in different ways, such as biological warfare. So over here, there's a group of soldiers or individuals in the military, is what it looks like, to be dealing with biological weapons. And these seem to be like some kind of bombs that contain different types of diseases such as the plague. Then over here is another picture of individuals who are wearing hazmat suits in order to prevent the contraction of the biological disease. So this finishes my video, and I want to thank you all for watching.